You're watching KPVM News 46. Weekend Review. With Deanna O'Donnell. And Jason Koblenz.
Welcome to News 46's Weekend Review, your number one source for local news. I'm Deanna O'Donnell.
And I'm Jason Koblenz.
Well, the prosecution presented their case for Daniel Robbins this past week, and the defense for Daniel Robbins began and rested their case in court on Wednesday. Robbins took the stand in his own defense for the August 2011 shooting. This morning, defense attorneys brought Daniel Robbins to the stand for him to testify on his own behalf in the case against him for murder and other charges related to the August 18, 2011 killing of 21-year-old Christopher Mundy and shooting of then 14-year-old Pablo Flores, who was the passenger in the car with Mundy. Robbins testified that he retrieved his 9mm weapon after hearing his wife scream that Mundy was at the Robbins home located at 940 Benson Circle. Robbins allegedly loaded the weapon and went outside to apparently investigate. Robbins reportedly testified that he has not attended firearms training classes. The now 15-year-old Pablo Flores also took the stand today to testify that the shooting event happened in just seconds. He apparently gave testimony stating that he could not see anything that was happening because he was crouched down on the floorboard of the vehicle when the shooting occurred. A deputy testified today that they had responded earlier in the day to the location in which Daniel Robbins' daughter, Jennifer Robbins, had attempted to retrieve her vehicle from her parents' home, but her father had stood in front of the vehicle, apparently stopping her from moving the car. The vehicle is the subject of discussion because Mundy was apparently asked by his girlfriend Jennifer Robbins to retrieve it from her parents' home when he was killed. Today, Robbins testified that the car was not running properly and he didn't want her to have it because it was apparently a safety issue. The defense asked Judge Robert Lang yesterday for a dismissal in the case, stating that the prosecution could not prove their case. Today, the judge denied that motion. After the defense testimony concluded, the defense once again asked for a dismissal in this case. Closing arguments are set for Monday afternoon at 1:15. The jury will then have the case and decide the fate of Daniel Robbins. This is Deanna O'Donnell for News 46.
A family watched as their home burned to the ground last Saturday night on Shadow Mountain Road.
Shadow Mountain occurred at around 5:30 p.m. on Saturday evening. It reported as a structure fire from the beginning, with the occupants were egressing out of the structure. There was a language barrier experienced between dispatch and those that were on scene, but it was easily determined that they had a well-involved structure, there was nearby exposures, and that it was a serious incident. While we were en route just about on location, it was confirmed that, again, it was a fully involved single-wide manufactured dwelling. Upon arrival, we confirmed that. We immediately went into a defensive exterior attack because there was no possible way that anybody could go in the structure. The scene size-up also revealed that all occupants had safely egressed and there was no one in the structure itself. Also, the other buildings that were located on the property and next door were also evacuated as a precautionary measure. Defensive exterior attack quickly suppressed or at least controlled the fire to the point whereas we could get the hand lines deployed and put out the rest of the fire. The investigation was commenced on scene, and it was determined that it was most likely an accidental fire, and it could be quite possible that it was caused by an electric space heater that was being used in the property and left on after the occupants had left.
This happens frequently during the winter months with these space heaters. Is it space heaters themselves, do you know, or is it the location, or is it them coming in contact with other things?
It's really a combination of all those things. It's close proximity to being placed in nearby combustible materials such as bedding and towels, or even, quite frankly, some people place clothing items over space heaters. The real issue is know the type of the appliance you're buying, what are the safety, follow the instructions as to what and what not to do and where to place them. You always want to check for a UL tag on them, and you want to make sure that no matter what, when you leave the space, you turn them off and unplug them.
The residents of the home, or at least other homes in close proximity, were attempting to put out the fire themselves with a garden hose.
Yeah, and that's one of the big challenges we've been facing on just about every fire we have, people attempting to suppress the fires. And quite frankly, just as in most cases, one of the people that were involved in that effort sustained some smoke inhalation And it's unnecessary. A garden hose isn't going to affect any good outcome on a fully involved structure. It just doesn't put out the gallons per minute required for any type of containment, and the fire is just going to continue to grow, and they're placing themselves in harm's way. And so then when we arrive, our first priority is life safety, so we're wasting time, in many cases, having to manage and police people and their efforts so that we can get underway with the suppression effort. Good intentions, but please, please just stay away from it. Make sure everybody's safe.
There was some chaos going on in the beginning of the structure fire going on, whether everyone was accounted for, whether people were still trying to fight the fire, kind of going back to the structure and back and forth. What would you recommend?
Everybody do what we do as the fire service. Get everyone away from the structure, meet in a central location, and have what's called a PAR, which is a personnel accountability. In other words, make sure everybody's accounted for, what was their last known location, and then have a point of contact that relays that to the fire department or the sheriff's office.
An emergency crews responded to a structure fire on the west side of town. Fire Chief Scott Lewis explains.
Balzar Street was reported of a smoke condition, and it was reported that a neighbor had witnessed or observed smoke emanating from the attic area of an unoccupied structure. At least they thought it was unoccupied. Well, upon our en route actually to that call, it was confirmed that they were starting to get another call reporting the smoke was now changing in color, it was darkening, and it was eventually coming from the attic space. So we dispatched it as a structure, upgraded the assignment, bringing additional engines, tenders, and myself. Upon arrival, they found, in fact, that they did have a structure fire. Lieutenant Moody, on his size up, had determined that he had a good view of a working room and contents fire that was extending into the attic. He was able to observe that from the rear of the house. They entered the structure from the front. They made a good offensive interior attack, and they stopped the forward progress of the fire in that particular area. They hooked some additional ceilings and found that they still had a fire condition in the attic, so they worked from room to room, pulled those ceilings where necessary, and extinguished the fire. They did a really good job in a timely fashion.
Is this home livable at this point?
No, I wouldn't consider it livable because it affected a lot of the house's electrical system. But there's a lot of personal property that the firefighters protected, and so there are things that can be pulled out. To my understanding, the house was idle in some cases because the family is in the process of moving to different locations.
And so nobody was actually in the structure at all?
No, it was found to be unoccupied. We didn't know that at first, so we did primary and secondary searches within the structure and found that it was in fact unoccupied.
Do you know what started the fire?
That is under investigation by the Deputy State Fire Marshal. It's believed to be possibly accidental and probability of electrical in origin, but he's continuing his efforts in that investigation.
And a grease fire was contained to the area of origin in the Saddle West in the early morning hours last Saturday.
And what went out as a kitchen fire for Saddle West, in fact, turned out to be a fire contained to a deep fat fryer. And there was some scorching to the surfaces above that, but the Saddle West crew did a really good job. They kept their heads. They took a nearby extinguisher, extinguished the fire prior to our arrival. We came in and did an investigation and found that there was a light smoke condition within that structure, but natural horizontal ventilation cleared that smoke out with no problems and really didn't impact their service level at all.
Deep fryers, we don't normally have them in our homes, but we do have grease fires. How would a resident put them out?
Yeah, basically the same thing is to remove the heat. If we have it in a frying pan, we want to turn off the heat, cover it, turn off the heat, and remove it from the element. What happens in a lot of cases, people automatically go to the water and throw it on, and all that does is splatter the grease. You can get sustained burns. You can extend the fire. In many cases, it can come out with explosive force. So cover, return it, and remove it from the heat is the best thing. 911 immediately and get us on the way.
Saddle West was still able to stay open?
Yeah, the type of extinguisher they used didn't cause the mess that using a dry chem can do, and it was relatively contained. So it's just a matter of some local cleanup in that area, and it shouldn't have affected it. It gave them actually plenty of time because this occurred around 2:30 in the morning, so before their breakfast service would open.
26-year-old victim of domestic violence, Megan Kimbrough, has passed away as a result of her injuries she endured after being attacked by her husband in their Lakeland, Florida home. Her husband, Joshua Kimbrough, doused the mother of two with gasoline while she was sleeping and set her on fire.
I just wanted to come on and let everyone know that Megan has passed away on Saturday about 2:15. On Wednesday, we were informed by the hospital that Megan's condition had worsened due to the infections that she had contracted while being in the hospital for such a long period of time.
She had 12 surgeries up to
October 11th. On October 11th, she had her 12th surgery, which was to put the CEA skin graft on her that they had been growing since right after she was admitted into the hospital. And whether she had that surgery or not, it had nothing to do with the infections. Unfortunately, when you're in a hospital for long periods of time, your body can contract several different types of infections. And they just had a hard time getting a hold of the infections with antibiotics.
How old was Megan?
Megan was 26.
And she has 2 small children.
She has 2 small boys that are with family and have been with family and will continue to be with family.
How old are they?
3 and 7.
And what happened in the final moments of what was going on with Megan? I know that they had a comfort team there for her.
Yes, Megan's mom had went home as advised by the hospital and family to give herself a little bit of a break because Megan wasn't progressing after the surgery like they had expected. And so we had her go home so that she could get her things together and have holidays with her kids at home and her husband and come back after Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, 6 days after she got home, the hospital had called on Wednesday saying that Megan wasn't doing well and that they may want to come back. On Thursday morning, they left early and arrived in Tampa on Thursday. And actually on Thursday, Megan seemed to be doing better, which they said it was a type of rally. And once she knew her mom was there, it was like she knew it was time to let go. And on Friday morning, her organs started shutting down and they couldn't maintain her vitals anymore. And they told Megan what was going on and asked if she wanted to be resuscitated, and she had told them no.
And we'll be right back right after this.